Now you say the Swain land, was it this land Hugh Swain owned or?
Yeah, Nadine.
Nadine owned it?
Yeah,
Oh, no kidding, okay.
Yeah, we farmed it. When Mr. Willie quit, we farmed it for a number of years.
Okay. Well, yeah, okay, Nadine's land.
Yeah.
Hugh Swain was a childhood friend of Dad for some reason.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And he
From
introduced your dad and mom, didn't he?
That's right. Well, yeah, my mother met my father at Helen and Tom Bird's wedding.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I knew they were exact contemporaries virtually,
yeah.
but and that's where she met up a win. So,
Well, now, you told me a story a day or two ago about Nadine and King Tut. Let's tell everybody who Nadine was.
okay, Nadine Swain was a Moor.
Yeah, Nadine Moore.
And
Everybody seemed to want to marry into the Moore family. They were kind
Well,
of the
the
top
Moore family owned everything.
Okay,
Yeah.
they were the top family in Charleston.
they were,
Okay,
If not the top, certainly the richest.
okay,
yeah,
all right.
Charleston was named for Charles Moore.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
And our great-grandmother, Gimaw,
Was a Moore.
was a Moor. She married A.B. Gooden. the
A.B.
first.
Gooden.
That's
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
the first. Granddaddy's dad. She was Granddaddy's mother. Anyway, the three of them, her mother and her sister, were, as they would do, on the Grand Tour, which they did periodically. And they were in Egypt, in Cairo.
In 1922, a significant year in Egypt.
And that was the year that Howard, being Howard Carter, discovered King Tut's tomb.
Lord Carnarvon.
Yeah, he was working for Lord Carnarvon, and he found King Tut's tomb, and they knew him from the hotel or something, and he personally took them down into the tomb as they were working. She went into King Tut's tomb right after they found it.
wow.
Now that, and she told me that.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, of course Howard took us there. As you can imagine, such a gracious lady as she was, just, it was not to be unexpected. Of course he did.
Well, I didn't pay too much attention to Lester in those days.
Because he was so much younger.
I'm 9 years younger.
What did you think of Dad?
Hero.
Hero?
Hero.
Hero.
I remember one time you said to me you were a tiny little kid, and somebody told me I was going to grow up to be a farmer or something, which is what was the story in those days. And you said, really? You said, I always thought you were going to be a lawyer. You said that.
I did.
Yeah.
I don't recall. Of
Isn't
course
that
not.
funny?
Oh. And one day when you were there measuring cotton, remember that summer you
Oh yeah,
measured cotton?
1955.
Yeah, and I was, seventh grade, I guess. You took me out with Granddaddy's single action 45,
Yeah.
and we went out there to what we call first ditch, and we shot Granddaddy's 45. And you were showing me how to shoot that 45, and of course, by then I was hunting and doing things like that. And I've never told you this, Win. I've never told you, and
When I shot that apple off your head, you were scared. Never.
No, I had absolute confidence going in. But when I just want to tell you that I pretty quickly figured out that you didn't know nothing about shooting no 45.
Well, that 45,
And
if you could hit this thing as far away as that lamp, you were a dead-eye dick, I'll tell you.
it couldn't hit anything, couldn't hit a barn door.
No, you could not.
But I thought Win. I didn't think he was just the coolest guy or anything like that. Win was Win. My goodness.
Well, that was the reputation that my sainted mother, deceased when I was born, had passed on, because if I've ever heard of anybody who was deified, or at least sanctified,
Deified.
yeah,
I mean,
it was her. Everybody says, "Oh my God."
and of course, you know, some of that has to do with the tragic death and all
Oh
that.
yeah, I'm sure.
But and I've heard it all my life, but I've heard it from people not in the family who knew her.
Yeah.
And she apparently was one of the, people would say, she was the kindest person I ever knew. She was the most wonderful person I ever knew, one of the gentlest people I ever knew. And then I read that.
She was my mother.
Well, so you talked about issues with these people that were your relatives, and one of them probably was Civil War. Did you talk about your dad about that, Lester?
About the Civil Damn War?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
And I would like to get an
Now-
historical perspective from somebody like that.
Let me point out here that my little brother's name is Robert E. Lee Good.
Yeah.
That'll give you an idea.
That,
of what
you know,
we're
just
dealing
give you-
with. Yeah.
But,
Anyway, go ahead.
well, Daddy, I mean, I have his copy of R.E. Lee by
Oh.
Douglas Southall Freeman and Lee's Lieutenants. And I picked them up, and I mean, he read them. He didn't just read them, he underlined them, he'd make comments in the margins.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Boy,
I remember he one time sat down with me and went through those books with me about Robert E. Lee and how much he admired him and so forth.
What did he like about him the best?
the same thing Wynn was talking about, integrity, honor. Plus, you had, you know, the lost cause, and, you know. I asked him one time, I said, Daddy, do you really wish the South had won the Civil War? Because if they did, we'd be two separate nations. And you know, he didn't say yes, no, he kind of wormed his way out of it. I said, we're one nation, isn't that best? And he didn't say no to that.
Yeah.
He was very much in utter romantic mode. But as to the results, I didn't try to nail him.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
there's a lot of myth involved.
Whoa!
A lot of myth involved.
Incredible.
Well, what was the basic reason for the Civil War in Uncle Vernon's opinion? What happened? Were
He said it was states' rights.
states' rights, like the rebels?
Those were his exact words, states' rights.
That their states' rights were being infringed on.
As they were.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that they had.
And
to
they
agree
were
with that.
forever changed by the Civil War.
And profoundly.
Yeah. These people in Catalonia better go back and read Abraham Lincoln if they're serious about seceding from Spain.
Oh yeah.
But if they split Barcelona off from Spain,
That's going to
Spain's
be
got
bad.
a problem.
Yep.
Yeah. Of course, it's like they wanted to split Montreal off from Canada there. And
Sure.
old Charles de Gaulle said, what was it?
What did he
Gave a
say?
speech and he said, Viva, what's the proverb? Viva Quebec Libre. He ended the speech with that at a time when I guess the interest in splitting off Quebec peaked out about that.
Yeah.
But he gave that speech in Canada, and it did not go over well. Well, to this very day, there is a serious argument about revising the statutes that require all businesses to have their names in French. You know, there's a law in Canada. They don't have the same idea about free speech that we have here. But, and it's a real problem for a lot of these multinational corporations who have well-known names in the world, and they don't want to change them to France and anywhere else. You know, to French anywhere else. And it's a real problem. I mean, they're having a real squabble over it as we speak. Well, of course,
That's France.
France itself was never so dedicated to the French language as the
Quebec people.
the Quebec Libre people are.
Okay, so what else from Charleston that you remember that you liked doing when you were there as a young man?
Who are you talking to?
Either of you.
Either of us.
Yeah.
Say something good about Charleston.
I loved riding my bicycle and running all over town, and I loved playing football, baseball, and basketball with my friends, pick up, never organized. And loved summertime, and I never cared for riding horses, even though I had a horse practically from the time I can remember. I can't remember not having a horse. And we had a team of mules. I liked the mules a lot better than I liked the horses. And we had milked the damn cow, and I didn't like that because I was too young to actually do the milking. My hands were too small, and John could milk 8 times faster. But I still had to go with him, and it made me furious. I had to go along with him, and to this day, it is my idea of the most degrading job known to man. I had to go along and hold the cow's tail.
Is milking cows?
No.
Holding the cow's tail.
Holding the cow's tail while John milked, so the cow would switch around and hit him and get cow excrement into the milk. However, if it did, if it did fall into the milk, which it frequently
Just
did,
don't tell
we
anybody.
just dip it out, get on the finger, then we go in and pour it through.
Sarah Ann will never take another drink of milk in
No,
Charleston as long as she lives.
Yeah.
Charleston's where I grew up. Charleston U was where, when you were growing up, you spent a great deal of time in the summers.
And it was heaven.
And it has almost mythic stature.
Oh,
in your life.
absolutely.
What do you think of?
Well, when I was very small, was horseback riding. We used to ride over to Bird Cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
You remember Bird Cemetery? It's now called the Moore Cemetery, I understand,
Well, I didn't know that.
from Ann Elbert. At least I think it's the same place. There's a big monument there that has everybody buried in it. Now, how they reconstructed all of that, I don't know, because in my day,
It was
it was
all,
totally overgrown
and
the
the
headstones
stones were
were-
falling all over.
and
Yeah.
so forth. Right over there and read the gravestones, which were interesting, how far back they went. And I think they had a couple of them going back 100 years or something, which was very impressive for that part of the world.
Yeah.